Hello, good evening, and welcome to Camnet Television News. My name is Jeffrey Zambo to present our top stories in the news tonight. BOWMAN LUSAMBO on the run amid new corruption charges. State House distances itself from corruption cases involving KCM liquidator MILINGO LUNGU. The Council of Churches in Zambia, CCZ, condemns UPND'S threats on civil servants. In international news, Chad's Transition Military Council still facing challenges. And in sports news, CHIPOLOPOLO coach ASANOVIC eager to start preparation for the Africa Cup qualifiers. Hello once again, and now the news in detail. The Zambia Association of Citizens Contractors has challenged the local authority to expedite the dismantling of the crane at Lusaka's Katondo Street. In an interview with Camnet News, ZACO President Mtalempepo has wondered why the infrastructure of that nature would take this long to be dismantled, adding that it is a threat to the public. Meanwhile, Lusaka City Council LCC Public Relations Officer Mwaka Nakweti says the delay is due to the failure by the contractor in charge to hire the crane with relevant height that can facilitate the removal of the leaning crane. Earlier, the contractors assured the public that the crane will be removed on Sunday, the 17th of April 2022. More in this report.
The contractor tasked with removing this crane from the unfinished controversial building at Lusaka's Katondo Street assured the general public that the crane will be removed on Sunday, 17th April 2022. This update followed an attempt to dismantle the crane, a process that proved an exercise in futility, thereby leaving it leaning to the wall as observed. Henceforth, it has been business as usual for the traders around this area, a development which has raised concerns by concerned citizens and stakeholders. Monday, the Zambia Association of Citizen Contractors President Mtalempepo has challenged the local authority to expedite the dismantling process.
And leaves it hanging like that, in danger, the public waiting for anything disaster to happen, killing human beings. That is not good. As ZACO, we are asking the council and the contractor in charge to quickly remove that crane before lives are lost. Back to site, quickly remove that crane before lives of Zambians or any other person dies. Please, please do it as quickly as possible. We were told you were going to do that in, is it 5 days or so? But how long has it taken?
Meanwhile, the Lusaka City Council LCC Public Relations Officer Mwaka Nakweti has attributed the delay to failure by the contractor in charge to hire the crane with relevant height that can facilitate the removal of the leaning crane.
Of Katondo and Freedom Way. The council is in constant contact with the contractor to ensure that the crane is taken down as early as possible and that all the safety measures are considered. The contractor had been engaging private companies and individuals to get a crane with the relevant height, but they could not manage to hire one. And this has led to the delay in removing the crane which has been secured to the building. However, the contractor has made mention to the council that through the Director of Engineering Services that they have engaged the Ministry of Transport and Logistics to help supply a crane that would help do the work. And we have since assigned engineers to ensure that the works are done on time.
And Mojo Works Limited site engineer Mutemo Dennis says the company is approaching the Ministry of Transport to organize for a relevant crane.
We, from the private sector, things have actually failed to work out, but government, through the Ministry of Transport and Logistics, I think will actually be able to give us a crane. We just from former ESCO, which is pontoons and mechanical works services, they are now preparing a quotation for their crane, for the crane for the department. So we should be getting a quotation from the finance department, maybe by 16 somewhere there.
Alex Shumba, Camnet News in Lusaka.
More mobile money booth attendants and stakeholders have come on board petitioning the Zambia police to ensure the quick and safe rescue of a mobile money booth attendant, Pamela Chisumpa, who was allegedly abducted by unknown people last week. Wednesday, 20th April 2022, marks exactly 7 days since Ms. Chisumpa, aged 22, left in the company of unknown people and did not return home. Meanwhile, Kamala Ward 5 Councillor Mainda Simata has delivered a letter to Police Inspector General Lemi Kajoba for the case to be treated as an emergency, which will entail invoking all necessary security measures. More in this report.
For 7 days now, this mobile money booth belonging to Pamela Chisumpa, age 22, has remained closed and unattended to since her disappearance 1 week ago. Ms. Chisumpa is reported to have left with unknown people who requested for a transaction but did not come back and was later reported as missing by her family. A video of the 22-year-old has surfaced on social media depicting her being tortured by her alleged abductors who are demanding for 15,000 kwacha for her release after allegedly stealing 13,000 kwacha from her on the material day. While Police Inspector General Mr. Lemi Kajoba has indicated that the matter is being actively investigated, stakeholders have called for the same to be expedited. A visit to her mobile money booth by Camnet TV revealed that other mobile money booth attendants in that area are living in fear as the place is filled with harsh tones and whispers. Her fellow booth attendants in the area who indicated that they could not be on camera had this to say.
I feel like the matter is not being... I know the police are trying their best, but if they can put more effort at this, because it's been like 3, 4, 5 days since the person has been missing. And I'm sure even the criminals, the people who have abducted that girl are aware that they are unwanted. So this whole thing is really sad.
Whether you are educated or not educated, there is no employment. Even if we go outside, we ask around, find that even those people with papers, they don't do anything, they just stay at home. So if you find some money, you raise the capital, you start doing this business, it helps. You do 1 or 2 things at home. But if these things start happening now, we are going to be scared, we'll be staying at home, and we are going to involve ourselves in a lot of things, which is not going to help, but rather destroy our lives.
More stakeholders, among them Kamala Ward 5 Councillor Mr. Mainda Simata, have called for all necessary security action to be invoked to ensure the safe reunion of Ms. Chisumpa with her family. Mr. Simata was speaking to Camnet News after delivering a letter containing the same to Police Inspector General Mr. Lemi Kajoba in the company of other concerned citizens.
In the public domain, the police should continue updating the people on a day-by-day basis on how far they have gone in trying to locate this Pamela, because the worst for her can happen. We don't know if she has been eating, we don't know if she has been abused. All those things are capable of happening. So the longer she's kept there, the longer the police take to find her, the worse it is for her. And currently her family is in stress, and even as concerned leaders, we are in stress, because at the end of the day, she's a member of our community, she's our sister, and we are concerned for her safety. We want her back, and we want her back in one piece. And it's up to the police to carry out these investigations speedily, not casually, so that we can have her back in our community safe and sound.
Citizens are on edge as they await the outcome of the matter. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
The Anti-Corruption Commission, SEC, says the former Lusaka Province Minister, BOWMAN LUSAMBO, is currently on the run and that the Commission is engaging his lawyers to ensure that he avails himself before the Commission to answer to more charges he has been implicated into. Meanwhile, the SEC has disposed of a case in which it was investigating a former councillor accused of buying a bank together with its assets. SEC spokesperson Queen Chiwe says the allegations were not true and that there are and hence the case being disposed of. More in the following report.
The fight against corruption in Zambia has been labeled a witch hunt by some opposition political party members and stakeholders who feel it has been targeted at certain individuals who once held public office. Addressing the media in Lusaka Wednesday morning, the Anti-Corruption Commission spokesperson Queen Chiwe says the commission received a total of 306 reports of suspected corruption during the first quarter of 2022. Out of the reports received, a total of 148 were non-corruption related, while 158 reports contained elements of corruption and 132 reports were authorized for investigations.
At the close of the quarter, the Commission concluded and closed a total of 13 investigation cases. 11 arrests were also made countrywide, and the Commission had 61 cases before the courts of law, and 4 of the cases were concluded, resulting into 2 convictions. There were 6 cases pending judgment. There were no acquittals whatsoever recorded in any case before the court of law in the first quarter of the year.
Among cases that brought a lot of speculations on social media was one in which the Commission reported that it was investigating a matter in which a former councillor bought a bank together with its assets. The Commission has, however, U-turned and informed the media that the allegations were not true and that the case has been disposed of.
A former ward councillor in Lusaka was reportedly to have bought a bank and together with all its assets. On this particular matter, I wish to report that there was no substance whatsoever in these allegations that were made, and so the case has since been closed. So just like it was a former ward councillor. So using our investigations to the bank that was allegedly being bought, we found that there was no substance in those reports and the case has been closed.
And Ms. Chiwe says former Lusaka Province Minister BOWMAN LUSAMBO is currently on the run and that the Commission is engaging his lawyers to ensure that he avails himself before the Commission to answer to more charges he has been implicated into.
The Commission is also still making efforts through the lawyers of Mr. LUSAMBO to ensure that he appears before the Commission. There are other allegations other than the possession aspect of it that he's facing currently. There are other allegations that have been leveled against Mr. LUSAMBO, and we want his lawyers to avail him to the Commission for questioning because he has been elusive in the past few days.
Additionally, the Commission says it has come across additional information concerning the involvement of Faith Musonda into Corruption Act, which has led to extended investigations.
So number 1, possession of suspected proceeds of crime in form of a house at Kingsland City against Margaret Stella Musonda, alias Faith Musonda. In this particular case, following her arrest, the Commission has come across additional information in this matter concerning the same Faith Musonda, and this information has led to extended investigations. Investigations into alleged possession and concealment of properties reasonably suspected to be proceeds of crime against former State House Press Aide Amos Chanda. In this particular matter, investigations have reached an advanced stage.
With the Commission authorizing the investigation of 132 reports of corruption, the general public looks forward to seeing those involved be dealt with. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Minister of Justice Mulambo Haimbe says government will not be forced to respond to the allegation that the state is involved in the acquittal of MILINGO LUNGU by the Director of Public Prosecution when the matter has been taken to the courts of law. The Justice Minister, who addressed the media in Lusaka Wednesday, says the state will file an affidavit before the courts in which all state witnesses implicated in the matter will have to defend themselves. He says the public should not be swayed by a one-sided story being purported by Mr. Milingo Lungu that he met with some state officials, but that they should wait for the court proceeding. And presidential spokesperson Anthony Walia says President Hichilema is not involved in the matters of Milingo Lungu and that the president is geared to fight corruption. More in this report.
Tuesday, 19th April 2022, social media was awash with reactions from the public after former Konkola copper mine liquidator Milingo Lungu implicated the state as having influenced his acquittal of charges of theft and money laundering involving $1.4 billion United States dollars. According to claims by Milingo Lungu, he entered into a bargain with the state's agents spearheaded by Principal Private Secretary to the President Bradford Majila, Special Assistant to the President for Legal Affairs Christopher Mundia, Attorney General Mulilo Kabesha, Solicitor General Marshall Muchende, Director of Public Prosecution Lillian Siyuni, and Natasha Kalimukwa, the Administrator General. Minister of Justice Mulambo Haimbe says the claims by Milingo Lungu are just one side of the story and has asked members of the general public to wait for an affidavit in response to Mr. Lungu filed before the Constitutional Court by the state.
Please, let's avoid asking questions about the substantive allegations and assuming that the substantive allegations are true. You assume that meetings took place and so on and so forth. That's one side of the story only. Be patient. Wait for the correct documents to be filed into court and you will get your answers, which by that time will be in the public domain because, as you know, court proceedings are a matter of public record.
Mr. Haimbe further adds that lapses in the law have been observed in the manner the Director of Public Prosecutor Lillian Siyuni acted when she questioned the conduct of the Drug Enforcement Commission in rearresting Milingo Lungu over the charges he was acquitted and has since appealed to relevant authorities to expedite the investigative process.
The question that begs an answer is whether the learned DPP has exercised her functions within the confines of the law and in the public interest. Our initial assessment in answer to that question is that there have been significant lapses on the part of the DPP which require thorough, independent and fair investigation by relevant bodies.
And presidential spokesperson Anthony Walia has denied any involvement of President Hakainde Hichilema in the acquittal of Milingo Lungu and says the president is committed to fighting corruption.
Has never met and he will never meet any individual in conflict with the law, especially not for purposes that can be understood or seen to be undermining the rule of law or the law in itself. This is a government of laws, this is a president of law and order. Such a thing would never happen and it will never happen. And to that extent, I wish to reaffirm and confirm that we stand by the initial statements that we issued.
We wish to make it absolutely clear that it is not the policy of the New Dawn government for the president to meet and negotiate with any person that is in conflict with the law for the purposes of subverting the course of justice. Kindly take note.
We will continue to monitor how the matter will unfold as it is before the courts of law. Prudence Jota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
The anti-corruption activist Matthew Mohan has challenged the Anti-Corruption Commission SEC to demonstrate seriousness in fighting corruption by putting up billboards at the government institutions denouncing corruption. Mr. Mohan tells Camnet TV News that the new SEC chairperson should be proactive by making sure that all the government institutions have billboards indicating zero tolerance to corruption. He says public offices are where corruption mostly takes place, as opposed to limiting it to near toll gates. Last month, President Hakainde Hichilema appointed former Attorney General Musa Mwenye as the chairperson of the Anti-Corruption Commission SEC board.
The fight against corruption. It's amazing to see how billboards have been put across the country near every toll gate, over a 20 kwat toll gate fee, to say stop corruption, to corruption-free zone, over a 20 kwat. Yet I don't see such billboards at ministries that are giving millions and millions of dollars of contracts to people. I challenge the new chairperson of the Anti-Corruption Commission that today every ministry should have a billboard right at the entrance that this is a corruption-free zone, so that every citizen in this country can move to a ministry without carrying money in their pockets to get things done. I challenge you that if you can't do it, I'm ready to do it with my own money, to put billboards at every entrance of a ministry in this country to say corruption can kill people. Corruption is dangerous. I want a corrupt-free zone in every procurement department of every ministry in this country. This is the challenge I have for you, new chairperson of the Anti-Corruption Commission. If you want any support, I'm ready to use my own money to put up those billboards.
United Party for National Development, UPND National Tourism and Environmental Committee member Kalaluka Muliokela has called for investigations which will ascertain whether former Lusaka Province Minister BOWMAN LUSAMBO was illegally keeping wildlife at his house. Addressing the media Wednesday, Mr. Muliokela says such an investigation is necessary to ascertain the true value of the animals, and also as a cautionary measure since reports of illegal wildlife capture during the previous administration were reported. The Anti-Corruption Commission SEC on the 14th of April 2022 seized properties amounting to 22 million kwacha belonging to the former Lusaka Province Minister, among them wildlife. More in this report.
The United Party for National Development, UPND, has indicated that one of its core mandates as a new Dawn administration is to combat corruption in all its forms. While stakeholders have divergent views over this, with some expressing that the fight is being done casually, the UPND has been maintaining that it is up to the investigative wings to speed up the process, as it will not interfere in the operations. The UPND has, however, stated that like other concerned parties, it will not shun away from advising the investigative wings along the way to ensure that the fight is comprehensive. In this vein, UPND National Tourism and Environmental Committee member Mr. Kalaluka Muliokela says there is need to establish the value of the wildlife, among them zebras, which were recovered from the home of Kabushi lawmaker Mr. BOWMAN LUSAMBO in the recent seizure of property by the Anti-Corruption Commission SEC. The SEC recently seized property belonging to Mr. LUSAMBO, suspected to be proceeds of crime, amounting to 22 million kwacha. Addressing the media Wednesday, Mr. Muliokela has however expressed concern that the value of the animals was not mentioned.
In that, we saw zebras, we saw elephants, not elephant, we saw water bats, and we saw impalas. Those are species that were seen to have been on the property. Whether they're supposed to be there or not is a function of the legality that we've just spoken about. Now, we don't want to go into the value of those animals, but we want to share the fact that there is an obligation by the Department of National Parks to make sure that the ownership is legal. The question is, were those processes and procedures followed? The anti-corruption looked at the value of the property as in building without the enhanced value of wildlife around it, which in essence would have elevated the property value itself.
He further says there is also need to establish whether all regulations surrounding the keeping of wildlife in residential areas was followed, so as to determine what charges to place.
This can't be left alone, but it needs to be collectively added to the value of the property, and also to note that to acquire those animals is not just an easy thing. There's a cost to acquisition, management, and maintenance of those animals. Have we seen this information shared? No, we've not seen it.
The Kabushi lawmaker, as well as other named political officials, are currently undergoing investigations on corruption allegations. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
The Council of Churches in Zambia, CCZ, has bemoaned the tendency by political party cadres to harass civil servants. CCZ General Secretary Father Emmanuel Chikoya has in this regard condemned the call by some United Party for National Development UPND members that the Director of Public Prosecutions Lilian Siyunyi should resign within 48 hours for what they termed as incompetence. Father Chikoya notes that while people are at liberty to express themselves, specifications in line with the Constitution should be followed. CCZ has therefore called on everyone with grievances regarding the DPP to follow the guidelines stipulated in the Constitution.
Of the DPP. Therefore, the tendency by some political party cadres to bully and harass civil servants and public service workers is strongly condemned, and it is a culture that should not be allowed to exist in the current political dispensation. The Zambian people voted for change of government because they believed that the UPN government would restore the rule of the law in the country. CCZ recognizes the fact that there could be challenges regarding how the DPP has been handling cases. This, however, does not justify the methodology employed by UPND cadres. As CCZ, we give guidance that such behavior must be followed by 10 disciplinary action against the perpetrators to act as a deterrence so that such ugly behaviors are not allowed to increase and become the norm. We call upon all those with grievances regarding the DPP to follow the guidelines as stipulated in the Constitution by lodging a formal complaint to the Judicial Complaints Commission. No one is above the law, and we reiterate that any act of lawlessness must be swiftly and decisively dealt with in order to curtail anarchy, which may consequently undermine the rule of law.
Vice President Mutalena Lumango has urged Zambians to embrace peace, which is a prerequisite for national development. Mrs. Nalumango says instability and violence is retrogressive to the country's socio-economic growth. Speaking upon arrival at Kasama Airport this morning, Mrs. Nalumango says the United Party for National Development UPND administration is committed to promoting peace and good governance. Meanwhile, former Patriotic Front PF National Youth Chairperson Kelvin Sampa has defected to the UPND. Mr. Sampa announced his defection at Kasama Airport during the arrival of Mrs. Nalumango, who is also UPND Vice President.
I want to borrow my elder brother's words. Ilay Sula! Ilay Sula! Ilay Sula! Your Honor, the Vice President, I stand before you here in Kasama declaring my joining the United Party for National Development a party that has the heart for the people of this country.
This is Camnet Television Main News. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more news after the break.
Zavenda. Save nations, develop Africa. Connecting African countries to each other and connecting the African continent to the world. This logistics and global supply chain management group offers end-to-end solutions across all sectors of the economy. Agriculture, energy, telecommunications, finance, construction, transportation, and insurance. And now, its initiatives are greener than ever, operating in line with government guidelines and working to provide energy security for Zambia and beyond. 25 companies united under one group and one vision. Zavenda. Trade and logistics made easy.
Team, the trajectory of the business looks very positive, and it looks like we'll be able to launch the ministry. Has so much data.
Mom.
Yes, baby.
It says here, global warming and climate change is caused by the pollution from careless activities of human beings.
Wow! Son, do you know I can turn my phone into a TV remote?
How's that possible?
It's so easy. Check this out.
Be smart, be fast with mega data from Zamtel. Get your 15 GB mobile data for only 100 kwacha, 30 GB mobile data for only 200 kwacha, and your 70 GB LTE data bundle with free Netflix, YouTube, Facebook, and WhatsApp. Visit our Facebook page, website or service centers countrywide for more information. Zamtel, your digital lifestyle partner.
Camnet TV is becoming big and better. You can now watch Camnet TV wherever you are around the world, simply by downloading the Camnet TV app. With Camnet TV app, you only use less bundles. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Welcome back. We continue with the news. Minister of Finance and National Planning, Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwane, has noted with concern the delays in the formation of the official creditor committee under the G20 Common Framework for Debt Restructuring. The Finance Minister and other delegation members, who include Secretary to the Treasury Felix Nkulukusa and Bank of Zambia Governor Dr. Denny Kalialia, are currently in the United States of America. In a statement unveiled to the media by the Ministry of Finance, the Zambian delegation has commenced engagements at the World Bank Group and the International Monetary Fund IMF spring meetings in Washington, D.C., United States of America. The ministry says the delegation has since held high-level talks with the World Bank Group Managing Director for Operations, Axel van Trostenberg. The ministry further says during the Monday talks, Dr. Msokotwane discussed Zambia's economic reform agenda and the debt challenges, and called on the World Bank and other development partners to act swiftly in supporting the country's reform agenda and proposed debt restructuring. And speaking at the same meeting, Mr. Trostenberg said that he was pleased with the Zambian delegation's visit and says his organization and its Bretton Woods partner, the IMF, had completed a joint debt sustainability analysis which indicated the need for Zambia to access debt relief and strengthen the country's return to sustainable debt levels. Tourism Permanent Secretary Evans Mohanga says government is committed to the preservation of key landscapes around the country, including the greater Kafue ecosystem that forms part of the Kavango-Zambezi-Kaza Transfrontier area. The Permanent Secretary says there is need to understand how game management areas around these important landscapes are interlinked for the development of revised game management plans. He made the remarks when the three-member European Union delegation team made a presentation on green partnerships which support a climate-resilient transition towards sustainable growth and job creation. An EU team leader of macroeconomics, private sector and rural development, Matthias Rosing, says his team's main objective is to promote and invest in the green recovery and sustainable growth along the agriculture, forestry, biodiversity, water and climate.
Kafue is quite an important landscape for us, and this is why our engagement with the likes of Africa Parks have advanced to that level. We are just really trying to iron out maybe one or two clauses with them in terms of how it sits with our Public Finance Management Act, and also in terms of their proposal from the commercial side of things, how we are going to do it. So I have a meeting with the Accountant General just so that we understand the two models very well and see how we can move forward from that. So very, very soon, that's our plan, basically, to be able to actualize that co-management or collaborative partnership with the likes of Africa Parks. So we are really committed to that. We are going
the importance to go stronger into forestry. Also, because if you talk about an integrated approach, you should not forget about forestry. In Lower Kafue, of course, you have the beauty of the national parks or GMAs, the commercial part or the development part of the GMAs, the buffer zone part. And not only Kafue, but also you have some special national parks with Blue Lagoon and Lochinvar, which have some endemic species which are unique on this planet, even, like the kafue actually. So that's it, I would say, in a nutshell. Maybe I should add, I mentioned earlier, it's complementary to tourism, because the Director of Tourism is also here.
The Global Entrepreneurship Network Zambia, GENS, says Zambian youths should aim at forming cooperatives that will grow to become major businesses in the long run. In an interview, GENS Acting Managing Director Mr. Edwin Zulu says most major retail shops from South Africa currently operating in Zambia and other African countries once began as cooperatives, hence the need to take a leaf from these. Mr. Zulu says if well handled, most cooperatives will grow to become major employers in the years to come.
It's a cooperative. So that's what we need to do. If we're talking about and teaching people about cooperatives, let's show them successful models and how they've been models, So you need to show them case studies of successful cooperatives. From that point, we are going to help develop and promote sustainable cooperatives, because right now we are headed for worse failure than we had in the PF, because what has happened that from the UPND or government, from the party side, people have just been told go and form cooperatives and we are going to send money through the CDF and get. It's a wrong way to promote cooperative as a country.
We take our second and final break. We'll be back with international and sports news. Stay with us.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
We welcome you to the wonderful world of Savenda Electronics.
At Savenda Electronics, we pride ourselves in manufacturing high-quality electricity and water meters.
Boasting of the first of its kind state-of-the-art manufacturing plant in Zambia, Savenda Electronics manufactures customized smart electricity and water meters of international standards for both the local and international water and electricity utility companies. Our highly computerized factory, run by qualified staff, makes, calibrates, and electronically tests the smart meters to ensure only those meeting customer specifications are delivered to the market. Some of the main features which come with our meters includes notifications about low units, tempering, low battery, and many more customized features. Savenda Electronics provides on and off-site after-sales service and has favorable contract terms for water and electricity utility companies. Savenda Electronics, the real deal.
And now in international news, victims of devastating floods in South Africa's hard-hit province of KwaZulu-Natal have started to rebuild their homes and their lives. Close to 4,000 homes were destroyed and more than 40,000 people were displaced by the floods and mudslides caused by prolonged heavy rains last week. Nosisa Nkrumalo, a Dambuza resident, a victim of the floods, was hard hit, having lost everything, and now has to begin life from scratch. She said everything is destroyed, including her children's bed. On Monday night, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa declared a national state of disaster in response to the flooding, and his government has allocated 67 million United States dollars to help those affected by floods that have killed at least 448 people in the eastern city of Durban and surrounding KwaZulu-Natal. For more in international news, here is a roundup.
A year after Chadian President Idriss Déby was killed in action, many challenges still lie ahead. The Transitional Military Council, established the following day, has been chaired by his son Mohamed Idriss Déby, who addressed the nation Tuesday evening and spoke about the failures, but also the positive achievement of the ruling junta. Contradicting predictions of social disruption and institutional chaos in our country, the transition has been progressing steadily over the past year. The current Chadian leader said the seizure of power by the military after President Déby's death had avoided an institutional vacuum. Late President Déby was killed in clashes with rebels just days after his re-election for a sixth term. His son promised an inclusive national dialogue open to all oppositions, political and armed, in 3 weeks. As previously announced, the inclusive national dialogue will begin on the 10th of May in N'Djamena. This is a crucial meeting, at the end of which our dear and beautiful country will have permanent institutions that meet the deep and legitimate aspirations of the sovereign Chadian people. Talks between different opposition groups have already been taking place in Doha since March. The clock is ticking for the Transitional Military Council, as the African Union has given them until next October to organize a democratic transition.
Victims of devastating flood in South Africa's hard-hit province of KwaZulu-Natal have started to rebuild their homes and their lives. Close to 4,000 homes were destroyed and more than 40,000 people were displaced by the floods and mudslides caused by prolonged heavy rains last week. Everything is destroyed, including my children's bed, which you can see lying on the ground. We are basically left with nothing. The government has allocated $68 million to help those affected by floods that have killed at least 448 people in the eastern city of Durban and surrounding KwaZulu-Natal. Seeing our president visit various areas affected by the floods was encouraging and showed that he sympathizes with the people. We trust that we will get the assistance as promised. South Africa's military has deployed 10,000 troops in Operation Chariot to help with continuing search and rescue efforts. According to the officials, more than 40 people remain missing and about 600 schools have been hit with damages estimated at $28 million. But how long the rebuilding will last is a matter of wait and see.
Locals in Michigan still pursuing justice following the murder of Patrick Lyoya by a police officer. A newly released independent autopsy revealed that the late Congolese was shot in the back of the head by a Michigan police officer while face down on the ground. The lawyers to the family revealed that the autopsy matches what was seen last week on video released by Grand Rapids police chief, though the autopsy report hasn't been released to the public.
Well, today, based on scientific evidence, we can confirm that Patrick Lyoya was shot in the back of his head. That is now scientific evidence of this tragic killing and what his family believes was an execution.
The family lawyer claimed that Lyoya wasn't armed during the incident and further accused the Michigan police officer for not respecting the law after failing to even issue a verbal warning before the deadly incident occurred.
From the second that he pulled the weapon until he shot and killed Patrick,
was milliseconds, as Ben said. Never gave a verbal warning, which is required under the federal law.
The murder took place on April 4 when Lioya and the white officer physically struggled on the ground before the 26-year-old refugee from Congo was shot.
Let's now have some sports news. And in sports news, the CHIPOLOPOLO will kick off their 2023 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers away to Ivory Coast on May 30. According to the fixtures released by the Confederations of African Football (CAF), ALJOSA Asanovic's Bullets will then host Comoros on June 14 before a back-to-back engagement with Lithuania at home on September 19 and in Maseru 8 days later. The qualification race will be on ice until March 20, 2023, when the CHIPOLOPOLO will host Ivory Coast before wrapping up their campaign away in Moroni with a date against Comoros. Hosts Ivory Coast have already secured automatic qualification but will participate in the qualifiers for Group H, which will leave the other three teams battling for the only remaining place. Asanovic said the technical bench has enough time to analyze their opponents and called on fans to continue supporting the team throughout the qualification race. Zambia has been placed in Group H alongside Ivory Coast, Comoros and Lesotho for the Ivory Coast 2023 Africa Cup of Nations. To end Camnet Television News, we'll take a look at stories making headlines once again. BOWMAN LUSAMBO on the run amid new corruption charges. State House distances itself from corruption cases involving KCM liquidator MILINGO LUNGU. The Council of Churches in Zambia, CCZ, condemns UPND'S threats on civil servants. And in international news, Chad's Transition Military Council still facing challenges. And in sports news, CHIPOLOPOLO coach ALJOSA Asanovic eager to start preparation for Africa Cup qualifiers. We'll now look at the Camnet verse for the day, which is coming from James 1 verse 2 to 3. Consider it a great joy, my brothers, whenever you experience various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance. Thank you once again for watching Camnet Television Main News. My name is Jeffrey Zambo, and bye-bye.